Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello, and welcome to Same Crime, Different Time. I'm Jennifer Chambers, and if you know my other show, Your Voice Matters with Jen Chambers, you know that I'm passionate about uncovering the truth. Here, we're taking that passion to the dark heart at the Pacific Northwest. As a true crime and historical writer, I've spent years immersed in the chilling archives of this region. Each week, we'll explore cases, both ancient and modern, of murder, unexplained events, strange places, and those who have simply vanished. We'll dig into the research, connecting the dots between past and present, revealing the threads of mystery that weave through our incredible, yet often unsettling, landscape. Prepare to be captivated as we discover that while times may change, the darkest aspects of human nature remain hauntingly the same. Hello, and welcome back to Same Crime, Different Time. This is the podcast where we dive into the Pacific Northwest's darkest mysteries, crimes, and haunted histories. I'm your host, Jen Chambers. Tonight, we're stepping into one of Portland's most famous music venues. It's a place where big names like Prince, Nirvana, and Ice Cube once performed, but where a much darker performance played out behind closed doors. The Roseland Theater, formerly known as the Starry Night, is not only a stage for rock legends, but also the site of one of Portland's most chilling true crimes. And, if the stories are to be believed, the ghost of the victim still lingers among the amplifiers and empty beer bottles seeking justice. This is a story of Tim Moreau, the 21-year-old publicist whose disappearance in 1990 became one of Portland's most notorious murder cases, and the haunting that legend said remains. Part 1. The Starry Night Club. Before the Roseland Theater was a staple of Portland's nightlife, it was known as the Starry Night. In the early 1980s, not 1890s, club owner Larry Hurwitz transformed what was a former church in Old Town Portland into a buzzing venue that drew in major acts. It was glamorous on the surface, but behind the scenes, shady dealings were underway. By 1990, whispers circulated about a counterfeit ticket scam. Fake tickets to shows were being printed and sold, and that, of course, undercutted legitimate sales. And then, when nearly 200 fake tickets to go see blues legend John Lee Hooker surfaced, suspicion pointed straight to the Starry Night itself. Enter Tim Moreau. He was a bright, ambitious young promoter, and he was a publicist for the club. By all accounts, Tim was hardworking, full of life, and just starting his career. He was only 21 years old, but he had begun to uncover more than just forged tickets. He had stumbled into a dangerous truth. Part 2. The Disappearance. On January 23rd, 1990, Tim was called into Larry Hurwitz's office there at the Starry Night. That was the last time that anyone ever saw him alive. It was interesting. At first, he looked like he might have left voluntarily. Tim's car turned up at the Portland International Airport, but inside his car, his wallet, his ID, and his money. Everything you wouldn't leave behind if you were really heading out of town, right? The Charlie Project says that Tim still had, quote, checkbooks, cash, and $230 in his bank account, unquote, even. So Tim was just gone. He was just gone. And almost immediately, suspicions turned to Hurwitz. The rumors whispered in Portland's music scene grew louder. Had Tim been silenced for knowing too much? Part 3. Years of silence. For many years, there were no changes and no answers to where Tim had gone. His family waited and waited. They were haunted by all the questions, and any parent suffering a loss like this is hideous, of course, but Tim's family's experience was particularly awful. According to the Charlie Project again, Tim's parents even once had to scale a fire escape at the Roseland in order to confront Larry Hurwitz. And Hurwitz said, he told them that he had no idea about what had happened to Tim, But the worst thing was that he then offered them free concert tickets. Was that just to shut them up? Or just to get them out of his office? The whole idea is just gross. Hurwitz even sued the Willamette Week newspaper for libel after the paper suggested that he was involved in Tim's disappearance. That case did backfire, and it exposed some of the tax evasion and shady business practices that were involved in the nightclub. But still, there was no murder charge. Then in 1997 came a break. After the closure, Larry Hurwitz had moved to Vietnam, and he wouldn't come back, even after a federal indictment for tax evasion in 1997. But in 1998, things finally changed because of that tax evasion. Hurwitz was arrested overseas, and he was finally brought back to the U.S. on those tax evasion charges. The murder case, kind of quietly, was reopened. And then, finally, several of the former employees of the Roseland came forth with information that was crucial to the case. Part 4. The Confession. In 1998, former stagehand George Castanola confessed that he had been in the room on the night that Tim died. He said that Hurwitz strangled Moreau with speaker wire while Castanola held him down. The two men then buried Tim's body in the Columbia Gorge, which was across the river in the Washington state side, actually. At this time, Castanola admitted that he had been actually the one to dig the grave, which was in a forested rural place, before the killing. And he was also the one who drove Tim's car to the airport after he was killed. His body was hidden so well that KOIN-TV Portland said that, quote, "It has never been found, complicating the investigation by the Portland Police Bureau and Multnomah Sheriff's Office for more than 8 years," unquote. It was as brutal as it was senseless. Tim Moreau, 21 years old, he was just starting his life. He was snuffed out because he discovered a scam. Hurwitz eventually pled no contest to the murder, which is not admitting blame, but which is a distinct difference to saying you're guilty. LegalClarity.org states that, quote, "A no contest plea means accepting a criminal penalty without an admission of guilt," unquote, which is kind of hinky, but it allows them to sentence you for a crime. Hurwitz was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Castanola got 10 years. And afterwards, Hurwitz said that he would lead authorities to Tim's body, but even though he gave them directions and numerous searches were made, he was never found. But for Tim's family, justice could never truly be served, of course. In 2001, they filed a civil suit and were awarded $3 million. Money, of course, couldn't bring him back either. Hurwitz was eventually let out of jail in 2008 after spending 2/3 of his sentence in jail. And he was let out for good behavior. He was back in the Portland area, and he has since been arrested for driving under the influence and for drug charges. I don't know where he is now, but afterwards, that's what the evidence shows. Castanola was released from prison as well, and he now lives in Hawaii. Part 5, The Haunting. Now this part is where history meets legend. Since Tim's death, strange reports have swirled all around the Roseland Theater. Unexplained noises, lights flickering during performances. Crew members have sworn that they see a shadowy figure in the balcony even when the venue is empty. Some say that it's Tim's restless spirit, angry at Hurwitz, angry at the injustice, or unable to move on. BoiseGhost.org reports that, quote, blood-curdling screams and muffled struggling sounds, believed to be the residual haunting of Timothy, literally being choked to death, are heard in the hallways today, unquote, and that people have felt cold hands grab their ankles during performances. In fact, the Willamette Week newspaper once named Roseland Portland's best haunted venue. Ghost tours of Portland regularly include this theater on their lists of most haunted spots. Of course, skeptics argue it's probably creaky pipes or overworked staff or the businesses and the building's long, storied history, but for those who believe, maybe the Roseland isn't just haunted by the music history. It could be haunted by the ghost of a young man who still hasn't had his final encore. So the next time you're at the Roseland Theater, I've been there several times. Maybe the lights flicker. Maybe you feel a chill down your spine in the middle of a packed concert. Ask yourself, is it the energy of the crowd? Or is it Tim Moreau, still waiting for justice, still standing in the shadows of the Starry Night? Because sometimes history doesn't just echo, sometimes it haunts. I'm Jen Chambers, and this has been Same Crime, Different Time. Sources for this episode are listed at my Substack, which is at JB Chambers. See you next week. Thanks for listening today. Please review and rate wherever you listen to podcasts. That really helps out the show. And please leave us a voicemail at the Spotify link. Also, you can always feel free to send us an email at scdtmail@gmail.com or www.jennifer-chambers.com.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.